In this video, we're going to talk about how to handle a difficult, mean, aggressive, overly authoritative band director or conductor or director that you may be sitting under in your rehearsals. Hi, my name is Dwayne Huff, creator and founder of Band Leadership Seminars and Band Leadership Online. And as a student leader, how do you deal with that? If you find that whenever your conductor, your band director, your choir director, or whomever it may be, even a teacher, when they give feedback, they're overly aggressive. They're downright mean. They don't listen. They scold. They don't encourage and uplift. And how do you manage that? How do you deal with that? And is it even a possibility? Right? And then I think what you'll learn here is how to approach this situation, and it'll also inform you how to deal with this whenever your peers become that person or are that person. First and foremost, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a link down here to a video I did about the 4 different behavioral styles that you need to be aware of, because your band director, your orchestra conductor, your choir director, or another teacher could be the more dominant type personality, and you need to understand how they think, what makes them tick, what they want, what they don't want. But let me throw something else into this equation, because this is a very delicate and touchy topic, and you have to approach it the right way, or it could backfire on you in a major way. So I recently received on my channel right here. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do and hit the notification bell. I want you to ask questions. If you have a comment, drop it. If something comes up, shoot me an email. And so a student reached out to me today. I haven't done one of these videos in quite some time now because I leave this here to serve. I continue to do the band leadership thing, but there's so much content here. But when someone sends me a message like this, I'm like, I've got to jump on this. So hence my appearance. So forgive me for not being all buttoned up and professional here, right? But I just wanted to share with you how to resolve and approach this situation the right way so it doesn't backfire on you. But check out the video that I have in the descriptions about the 4 different behavioral styles, because it'll inform you about what you might be dealing with. The other piece of this is when the student reached out to me and said that the person in question here, when they gave feedback, they would scream, they would yell, they were aggressive, they didn't listen, they didn't take excuses, is also an older person, sitting in their 70s, right? You have to understand one dynamic here could be a behavioral style thing, but you also have to understand it's a different time. And back in the day when I was in high school, that was the norm for band directors and orchestra conductors and even choir directors. You got to realize these people are passionate musicians, creatives. So that emotion, that passion sometimes comes across as anger when in fact it's not actually that. And so it may be the case with this particular situation, but regardless of what it is, there's an old principle that I want you to apply here as you approach this situation. First and foremost, let me do it this way. God, there's so much to unpack here, but first, let's start with a principle. There's an old principle that says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And as a student leader, as a human being, as an adult, as a teenager, it's so important that we seek first to fully understand the situation or the person or their thinking or their approach before we try to get them to understand where we're coming from. So if you're experiencing an overbearing, overly aggressive, passionate, angry director or conductor or whatever it may be, please approach this very carefully, right? So seek first to understand, then to be understood. So second piece of this is this. You want to have this conversation with this person in question, the band director, the conductor, the choir director, whoever it is, and you want to have it one-on-one, right? And maybe you and another adult or a teacher have this conversation with the band director. They're just a moderator and a listener. But generally, the principle here is when you're dealing with this with a band director or a conductor or one of your peers, the principle here is never address this kind of issue in public where there's an audience, because they will get defensive and feel like they have to defend their position, and you will get nowhere, right? So it has to be a private one-on-one conversation, and if you need to bring a mediator or a moderator in there, make it another teacher or a counselor or someone that's neutral and doesn't have any weight, but it just kind of protects the conversation. Today's day and age, you can't be too careful. So if that would be the case, please do so. Ask your parents how they would want you to approach it. Ask another teacher if they would be the moderator, or someone that you trust that can kind of facilitate this conversation, because you as a student, you have to be very careful of how you approach this. But let's assume for a second that this person that you're trying to understand and get them to understand that their feedback is so aggressive and it's offending people and it's scaring people and it's demotivating people and it's killing the morale. It's a valid argument, okay? But when you approach this conversation, just ask for the time and say, and I'll just say, hey, Mr. Band Director, hey, Mr. Conductor, hey, Miss Choir Director, I was wondering if we could have a quick conversation, just the two of us, about rehearsal and some of the things that I'm seeing and experiencing. And they'll be like, sure, yeah, absolutely, let's have this conversation. And then say, listen, I don't want to make assumptions here, because I may be there may be some things that I don't understand, I don't see, I don't know. But here's kind of what I'm experiencing. As you give feedback in rehearsals, I can tell that you're very passionate about this, that you care a lot, and that you want to get it right. And I'm probably misreading this. Now, what did I just do? I put the blame on me. I put the responsibility on me, because if I come at them and I say, this is what you're doing and it's not acceptable, all of a sudden you put them on the defensive and you're not getting anywhere. But if you put that, I may be misreading the situation. I might not fully understand, which is why I want to have this conversation, because I've been in the orchestra or the band or the choir for this amount of time, and I know that you've been doing this for years, and I totally respect what you're doing. But I'm starting to hear the whispers and the buzz and the gossip and all that kind of stuff, and I just kind of want to understand what's going on here, so maybe I can be that person that helps the rest of my peers understand and see what the reality of the situation is. But whenever you're giving feedback and the way that you approach this, help me to understand what your intention is and what you're trying to convey, because I think I might be misreading it. And they might say, well, what do you mean exactly? How could you be misreading it? Well, and again, it's my perception, but perhaps I'm seeing it and I'm hearing it from other people coming across as overly aggressive and mean and rude and condescending and shaming. And I don't believe that's really the case. Can you help me to see and understand what the methodology and what you're thinking behind that is, and then I can understand it, so it doesn't distract me or it doesn't make me feel bad whenever you give the feedback. But then I can also be that voice to my peers that says, hey, it's not really that, it's this, and we need to give him a little grace, or give her a little grace. And that conductor or band director will be like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to come across that way. It's just my style, it's my passion. I've been doing this for years, but I understand what you're saying. And that can start the beginning of a conversation that opens the door and opens the window of communication, where at least you and your conductor, or you and your band director, and you and your choir director can reach an understanding, and then they can inform you about how to approach it with your peers. Or they might even say, you know what, I am so sorry, I didn't even realize that's how it was coming across. I've been doing this for years, and that's just how I've always approached it, but I really appreciate that feedback. Let me address it with the group. So seek first to understand, then be understood. Have a one-on-one conversation. Accept responsibility that it might be a misunderstanding on your part. Try to understand where they're coming from, and then you'll have an open window to share what you're experiencing, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and they may take the reins and address it and deal with it with the peers, so that you don't have to. And right there, the whole dynamic and culture can shift. But let me just warn you here, because I know we got band directors watching, and band directors and conductors and choir directors, please chime in. You live this every single day. What would you have the student to believe? If it was your situation, what would you want them to do? I don't want to be, there's no ego here. Just drop it in there and help these students. But students, please understand, this is a conversation that you might need to have with your band director, your conductor, your choir director. It's definitely going to be a conversation you're going to need to have with your peers as a student leader. But here's the thing. These conversations will exist throughout your life when you graduate and move on into the real world. And if you master the way to approach this right now, it's going to make life so much easier as you're dealing with humans throughout your life. So I hope this serves. Listen, if it did, drop a comment, ask a question, right? If you need to send me an email or whatever the case might be, and you have a question of something else that you'd like help with, I shoot these videos to serve you. right? And so please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell when I do something new. You'll be notified of it, and let me know what you need. I love making these videos. I love, going across the country and working live with students and band directors and orchestra directors and choir directors, conductors, sorry. And I have other resources that can support at bandleadershipseminars.com, so check that out. And listen, if your band director or your orchestra conductor or your choir director may not know about my channel and the things that I do to help and serve you guys, please let them know. And remember, you can inspire superior performance. You've just got to be willing to be a servant leader. And I commend the student who reached out to me and said, how do I deal with this? This is hard. And I hope this serves, again, band directors, choir directors, orchestra conductors. If you feel some kind of way about this whole thing, or if you would give advice to this student, or even to me, there's no ego here. I want to hear from you. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.